What is up, everybody? Jtrain back again with another podcast. I've been off the podcast scene for a while, and then all of a sudden, I'm doing three different podcasts, and a lot of it's because I've been having a lot of fun, and I hope that you guys have had a lot of fun listening to it. Doing it more so just to I've always wanted to kind of interview my friends, and I don't know celebrities or whatever, but I feel like the people that you run into on a day-to-day basis can be just as interesting as celebrities. And everyone's got a great point of view. I like to talk to people because everyone's got a different point of view and stuff, and that's very, very valuable. And today I have a guest who I think could give a lot of great insight on a lot of things. And I was really excited when I posted my last podcast and said, "Hey, if anyone's interested in being on my show, reach out, let me know." And really happy that my friend Hugh decided, hey, let's talk. And after a lot of back and forth of like schedules that didn't really work out, I'm happy that he's here finally and that we can do this. So how you doing, Hugh?
I am doing well. I am doing good. I am happy to be here. I am happy that we finally got to get together to do this. Not physically together, as COVID has prevented
Right.
any kind of stuff like that. But I am glad that we finally got to work this out, and I am thrilled to be here.
Right. Well, awesome. A little background. I go into the supermarket like every single day because I'm the kind of guy who's more of like I'm just gonna buy what I need for that day, and then eat. I feel like that helps me like not snack and overspend and everything. But I met Hugh at Harris Teeter where he used to work, and we instantly hit it off. And just a really cool guy, really insightful guy who can speak to a lot of things. Currently, you work at Yelp. Is that true?
That is correct. Yes, I'm currently getting off of a furlough. I actually got furloughed back in April, so I'm returning to work on July 1st, but I have still been technically employed and still receiving healthcare and benefits and all of that. Instead of not receiving money, but
Hey, I mean, like
it's
benefits are great. I mean that's
yeah,
that's great that you still get those benefits. So COVID-19 has touched your life.
it has indeed in many different ways. Luckily, I have not been physically affected by it
Yeah, that's
or
good.
that I know of. And nobody in my immediate excuse me, that is not a lie. Somebody that I'm still friends with, but I haven't seen him as much um over the past year or 6 months or something like that. His mother actually got COVID and died in Maryland. So that is the closest I've come to actually having it impact my personal life in terms of physical well-being. But yeah, it's impacted my life a lot. It's impacted everybody's lives a lot. It's can we curse on this? What's the
Yeah,
curse?
I mean, you can. I wouldn't do it like every
Yeah,
single word. I mean, I have some friends who can't finish a sentence without cursing. So
yeah. I have some friends that do that too. But just wanted to make sure I didn't say anything that didn't get to no approval. Um, but yeah. So yeah, it's been pretty freaking tough. But luckily I've not physically had it myself. I think, or I don't know. I could have had it. But yeah.
yeah, well, I'm really sorry that you know somebody who whose life was taken from COVID-19. But I mean, it goes to show that a lot of people, if it doesn't affect them, they can kind of think that it doesn't exist or isn't that big of a
Yeah,
of a deal. But I mean, it is killing people. I mean, it's killed more people than World War I already.
yeah, over like 100,000, over 100,000, like
Well,
116,000,
I
I
think
think.
it's over 119,000 now. So from the last time you heard of the 100,000, it's been like 20 more thousand people.
Jesus, yeah, that is it is unreal, and I'm trying to get out of this alive. I guess we all are trying to get out of this well intact and through all of this. So we just because we've been lucky, to not have been affected by it physically and all that, like it's not over. It's still here, and we still need to take precautions. And I guess it's going to be here for we're going to have to live like this for some time. But I'm glad that everything's kind of returning back to normal, ish. Not
Right.
normal, but like I can go out and like I went into a freaking nightclub, which I was like shocked that I did this, but and I was like it was like 2 weeks ago, when phase two reopened and the night we all went out, and I was like nobody had on masks, and so I was had a mask on, and then I took it off, and then I took it off. But like most people don't have on masks. And I think it was at like 70% capacity. There was a good chunk of people there. So, and I think everybody there was just thrilled to be like it was. I think it was the first night of phase two reopening. So I was looking around the crowd, and everybody was just looking like they were just thrilled to be out. Like it was a renewed respect for being able to live some semblance of a life, you know. So
Right.
that was really interesting.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you go around and you see people at restaurants, just completely overrunning the outdoors and everything. You could tell that people have really been wanting to go back, you know.
Yeah,
And it sucks because I mean the COVID thing is you don't see it. You don't know when it's like on something. You can't just avoid it.
yeah,
There's no vaccine for it yet, and then it also overlaps with our lives in terms of like your situation, going to work,
hmm,
just having a normal life, and no cure or end seems to be anywhere near in sight. And if you look at, say, historically, the Spanish flu, the worst might be yet to come. And I hope that's not true. But I think what I really want to get into is so for a lot of people who might not have actually been affected by the disease, they're affected by the disease in terms of like an economic standpoint. Maybe you
yeah.
can speak to that because a lot of the people I've had on this show, like the last person I talked to about COVID-19, like they didn't lose their job because of it. So what has it been like living without a job? Has it been, I'm sure it's been difficult, but are there like things that have kind of like helped you? Did your job kind of help you get through it? What have you been doing so far for the past like 2 months to survive that maybe someone could take from this who's also being hit by this?
Yeah, so April 9th, I work at Yelp as basically a sales rep. And uh in March, actually, I actually one of my main territory was New York City. So back in March, I was doing really well actually there. I started in December and I had always hit my quota, exceeded my quota a lot. I think it was like 200%. But then in March, obviously when COVID started happening in my territory is New York City, I was calling into the epicenter of COVID. And within like the beginning of March, towards the end of March, like at the beginning of March, everything was open. By the end of March, literally, I would maybe believe every store was closed. I could not get anybody on the phone. And the people that I could get on the phone and talk to about their budgets and I sell advertising. Um, we sell Yelp advertising, Yelp ads to them, to small local businesses, or really any business. The people that we could talk to, they had no service. So
Wow.
to give, nothing to give. So it was literally like from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, it was the biggest shift ever. Obviously, I didn't hit my quota, but everywhere was in the month of March, but everywhere I'm calling into the epicenter, and it's New York City. So obviously I didn't hit my quota, and then they um didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, nobody knew what was going to happen, how it was going to impact business. No businesses were open. Revenue was down, obviously. Um, so then in April, they did a big kind of company layoff and furloughs, and I think like 1,000 or something, 2,000 people were either laid off or furloughed. I was part of that. I was one of the people that got furloughed. And so it was really crushing because I really loved that job. But also I had no job, so I didn't have any income coming in. I did have a good chunk of savings, and I had to
Smart.
pull some money. Yeah, I had to pull some money out of the market that I had invested, that actually had made money, but I had some savings, and then unemployment was the biggest hurdle. Took forever. Um, it was I didn't get my unemployment until like May something. So that's like a whole month after I've been unemployed, and weeks after I'd stopped getting like income coming in from Yelp, and I'm like, well, I'm pulling from my savings, I'm pulling from markets, from the stock market that I'd invested. So that's where I was getting that, and then finally, it was like maybe a couple weeks ago, I finally got the first unemployment check. Um, but yeah, it's been a complete. I had to move back in with my parents. You know, I had to do this and that. I didn't really have to do that, but like it was so uncertain that I was like, oh my god, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know where money's going to come from, and I don't know what to do, and I have to pull all this money. You know, what is going to happen. So it was really, but in that time, I decided to release my book, which I wrote. It's a Game of Thrones parody book, but I had originally written it like a year ago, and I just never really got around to getting the time to sending it to editors, find a new illustrator, this and that. To do all of that, to really spend the money, learn the money about advertising and all of that. So within that time, so once that happened, I literally had all the time in the world once I got furloughed.
Right.
Um, and so that's what I decided to do as my next move. And I didn't even really, I was thinking of in terms of income coming in, but like, just I needed to first get my feet wet on just how to really properly sell this. And obviously, I picked a terrible time to do it, but it was obviously a great time to do it, because I had all the time in the world. And it's been really interesting as to how to the past 2 months have been. I'm starting work back again at Yelp on July 1st. I'm off furlough, for those listening. But it's been really, really, really crazy. And for somebody like myself who thought that, finally I'm getting my shit together and I have money and I have revenue and then like all this money and I have the savings and all of this and this and that. Um,
Suddenly you get hit
when
with a big roadblock.
yeah, it was a complete like mind fuck. Like, excuse my French, but
It's okay.
it was just um it was the emotional, it took like the emotional wear and tear of it. I didn't expect that coming, and it was just hit me like a train.
Do you think that
um
that was that was the worst part? Was like the mental part of it, or just like the sheer economic hit to your life? Because I think that some people would look at this and be like, well, I mean, there's nothing I can do about this. I'm just gonna have to do what I can, and I think you're lucky enough to not have a I don't think you have a family to look after.
no, I don't.
Yeah, so it is a terrible thing to happen to you, and but you don't have maybe these real assets or people that you have to like feed or whatever. So
Yeah.
was the issue more like a mental F? Like, well, here I was doing so good, I was saving up, I was investing, I had a promising career that I enjoyed, and you know what was the thing that warned you the most?
It was well, it was the fear, like the unknown. The fear and the unknown is always going to be with us. It doesn't matter like every day, but it was just literally like I don't know how long this money's going to last. And then it was just that it was that the emotional battering of just like I enjoyed what I was doing. I was getting satisfaction. I turned 27 last month. So I felt like my entire 20s, I felt like I was all over the place, and I felt like I was all, which I guess is very normal for people in their 20s. But my life, my childhood, was very sort of the way I was raised. It was this straight and narrow pathway you know
Success.
of success and living your life, and this is what you have to do, and this is how you have to do it. So now I'm going into my whole life story in my 20s, but
No,
like,
it's okay. I feel like a lot of
uh,
people in their 20s, like they're pretty much told like, hey, this is what people I think go up until like maybe 24 or something,
mm,
and listening to people be like, this is how you live your life, and then you try really hard whether or not that's actually the best fit for you to fit yourself into that life, and then you hit like 25, 26, and you realize, wow, I should have actually been doing what I actually like to do.
yeah. See, for me, like I was kind of like that. That was for me, like when I was in college. But my college, even college for me, was like really all over the place. So I wasn't really too hit by the I don't know. I wasn't too shocked by the roller coaster, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was by yeah, like you said, like by 25, 26, I'm like, oh my, I was, because I've always been doing I do improv, stand-up comedy, and I've
I had no
started to
idea.
make money doing that. Yeah. So I studied trained at the Second City. I actually co-authored a book. You know, The Onion.
Yeah, of course.
So the founder of The Onion, I think I co-authored a book. It came out like last year. My stuff is in it. It's by Scott Dickers. It's called How to Write Funnier. But that was my first foray into authoring and books and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I'd been doing a lot of comedy stuff. I'd been making money here and there, and I was in school and college, and I was all over the place, and that felt totally fine to me. Actually, a lot of people can't handle that, but at some point, like I think of like 25, 26 or whenever, like you said, you start to think about the future, and how the money, and not just money, but like what you want to put out in the world with this one life that you've been given.
Right.
Um, so it becomes, and I had a lot of life experience. I don't know, a lot of life experience, but like the difference between like 20 and 25 and 26 for me is like astronomical. Like it seems like a short 5 years, but I think that you learn and grow so much. Like I have a completely different perspective, and a lot of it's um you know I've had this thought the other day where I was like, I've been humbled, and I've also been empowered throughout my 20s, if that makes sense. Like life has humbled me, but it's also empowered me, like to what I thought, 18, 19 or whatever. I'm like losing my train of thought.
No, it's
I've
fine. I
heard
totally
a
get what you're
question.
saying. Like a lot of people, what people I may or may not realize is that, I mean, yeah, you have your puberty when you're in your teens and stuff, but you also have like this other puberty around your like mid 20s where you realize like the person you are between age 20 and like 25 can be completely different people. I am not the same guy I was at 22 than I was at, you know, my mid 20s, late 20s, whatever. I'm not the same person, and you have these realizations, and that's why I actually tell people. I mean, a lot of people think the 20s is the best time of your life. I don't agree with that at all, because you're having this mold of like between, like you said, the roller coaster and, oh no, what's the future that I'm going to have. But I wanted to get back to what you were saying about you. So you use this time to be productive, which I think is like an awesome
Yeah.
idea. I mean, it helped take your mind off of it and helped you kind of explore. And I hope that a lot of people after this are kind of exploring other ways that they could maybe say, make other income, or protect
God,
themselves, their economies and everything.
I just realized that was like what I was trying to answer, and I was like that whole long-winded thing. I just
No, no, it's
uh,
fine. But what I was gonna say is, so you actually did some writing before the book that you were trying to write during COVID-19.
yeah, so that's actually what spurred me to write this book. It was actually I had been at the Second City in Washington Improv Theater and been doing improv and wanting to get into like um writing humor. Like I've been doing humor. I wrote for my college newspaper, my college humor pub newspaper, which is like the black sheep online, and that's really like what kind of helped me get into that. Um, and then after college, I started to really test the waters of trying to get a book published through the traditional means of a publisher. So and then I kind of took all these classes, did all these things, ended up getting in touch with the founder of The Onion, Scott Dickers. He was putting material in for his next How to Write Funnier book. How to Write Funnier is the second in the series. He was putting together stuff for the second in the series, How to Write Funnier book, from people in the Second City. I submitted some stuff. He liked some of my stuff. He put it in his book. And he gave us a lot of information of how to, crack the self-publishing market, because he's had a lot of success and a lot of really six-figure book deals over his life with traditional publishers, but he also had success with self-publishing his own books. So he gave me a lot of guidance and a lot of information and a lot of techniques and what to do and how to do it with self-publishing. And this was around late 2018, early 2019. How to Write Funnier came out in early 2019. I got the idea to write a Game of Thrones parody around whenever the final season of Game of Thrones was airing in that time frame. It was like in the spring of 2019.
Right.
I
That sounds
wrote
about right.
and I wrote it while watching the last season, trying to piece together. It's a shorter book. It's like 60 pages. But so I wrote it in that time. Originally going to release it in that time. Book uploaded without a cover, and for some reason that like spurred me to just stop doing it
You
altogether.
said you
Like I wanted
uploaded
to,
it without a cover?
yeah. It had a cover. I had a cover for it, and it was. I'm looking back at it now. It was actually a really bad cover. Um,
What was bad
but
about it?
it was just it didn't. I didn't spend enough money on it, and
It looked
yeah,
like a poor cover.
it looked like a poor person's cover.
Oh no.
Um, so it looked like somebody did not care and was not professional, and I realized that. And so I was like, I don't know, for whatever reason, it took like a week to upload with a cover, and it didn't upload. And for whatever reason, in that time, I was like, I should really do this the right way. I should really invest the money that he told me to invest into this. It's a business, to it's a small business to properly, make one book, um, and to sell it in that way. And I had to get into this business owner mindset and learn all these things. So I took it down. It was up for like 3 days back in
Did you get
whatever
any?
it
Did
was.
you get any run when you had it published for those 3 days?
I had like a couple sales, like yeah, just a few, like a couple, not many. Um, but like it wasn't like it wasn't gonna get any real traction. And I think most of those sales were like from my friends and family that I had announced or whatever. I don't think it
Hey, those are
was.
usually like the first people, man.
Yeah, I think one was like somebody that wasn't my friend or family, but like just an person. But it wasn't being found on Amazon. I didn't understand how to do like advertising to how to do AMS, do advertising on Amazon, how much to pay, cost per click advertising, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really funny that I work at Yelp because that was in the like a year ago this time. And for some reason I was doing all these other I worked at Khaki for a little bit. I did all these really contract jobs in that time. Um, and then
So were you able to eventually just republish it?
yeah, so that I take forever to tell. I don't know why
No,
I'm
no,
taking
it's
this long
fine. So it's
to
up on Amazon right now.
yes, it is.
And
So
name?
yes,
What is the name of the book?
it's called A Game of Kooky Drones, like Kooky,
Oh,
Kooky.
Kooky
So
Drones.
basically, like the what I was the COVID, I had all this time in the world, um, and so I decided to invest the money, and that's what I did in my downtime down during the first days of furlough, um, and just really properly get a good cover, get a content editor, do all this, do all that, got it up. It was number one in television reference category for a couple days. I started the advertising, how to do book marketing and AMS platforms and so on and so forth. So it's COVID and furlough was obviously awful, but
It helps you publish this book.
yeah.
So you were saying that when you got this book up, that you spent some money to do some sort of like advertising via Amazon that kind of showed, hey, here's a suggestion for you that people could then go to the book and then kind of like read it.
Well, how it works, and it's like kind of the same way for Yelp and small businesses, and what I do at Yelp is it's cost per click advertising. And the great thing about Amazon, I'm gonna uh plug Yelp, I guess, as well, because it's very similar in the way that Amazon is like the type of consumer. So if you think about it, like it's not a cold lead, it's a very hot lead. Because when somebody does a search for a book, it's by keywords. So it's cost per click advertising, and it's done by keywords. So that's what AMS is. So like say you don't know what you are most likely going to buy something when you get on Amazon. Like you don't get on there to do anything but buy things.
Right.
You're in buying mode.
Uh huh.
So that's how so why it's so much better than say Facebook and other places or Google or whatever is because the intent of the consumer, they're in buying mode when they're on the specific platform. So that's how. So it's basically cost per click advertising. Amazon does a bid system, but you could do like $5 a day, $10 a day, $15 a day, $20 a day, 25, whatever you want to do. I think the lowest is $5 a day, and it's cost per click. So every time someone it's a sponsored result. So it's the first thing somebody's going to see when they type in. I'm not going to say my keywords specifically, but I'm going to just use a general one. So let's say you're looking for a romance novel, and you're most likely going to type something into the search bar on Amazon, like, you know, romance or whatever, romantic novel. Your keyword, you actually have hundreds of keywords for one specific campaign, but your book, if you write a book about like a romance novel, your keyword is going to be romance novel. You type that in, and it's going to be the first thing that someone sees. So it's the first shot at you get the first shot at the consumer's business.
So for example, I published something on Amazon, right? It's like a
Yeah.
kids horror book, right? I've done absolutely no, like, I've gone to nothing on Amazon to like say, hey, I'm gonna pay like $5 a day to help market my book. Now my book is not like sold recently, so
Mhm.
is that maybe one reason why?
Well, did you typically when people put up a book, it'll probably sell like 4 copies without advertising, like
Right?
2 to 3 copies, like nothing.
Uh huh.
Um, but the great thing about this is it's like literally people at the right place at the right time. They're looking for your exact book at the right place at the right time. They just don't know your book's there. That's the entire point of advertising. So it's the first thing they're gonna see. It's the first result that pops up. Um,
Well, that's what I'm
eh,
wondering. Like, so like you pay to have your book show up when these keywords are put into Amazon.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So right now, like your book, like I don't know if you were to type it in, its keywords is very like how you populate in the search results is very it's ran by an algorithm unless you pay for the advertising. But so you're probably not being found.
I think
Um,
that's absolutely true because and maybe we can talk, say offline with this, but I think that a lot of this information could actually be very helpful to people who might be also trying to write a book. So maybe we should get into it a little bit more. Like, so, okay, I have a book that's sitting on Amazon, right? And I've paid no
mhm.
money for advertising or anything. How do I go about making it so that more people are going to find my book when they are searching on Amazon for, like, say, Goosebumps or like Goosebumps type of books, like kids horror short stories? Like, what's the
Like
first step?
without paying, I would say,
No, with pay, like what do I
oh,
do? Do I take like $10 and I say, okay, Amazon, show this to people? Like, is that how it
well,
works?
it's typically like hundreds of dollars a month, but like it's you could be $10 a day. That if there's 10 days or excuse me, 30 days in a month, $10 a day, it's like $300 a month or
Right.
whatever. Um, but so what they do is it's very intricate, and there's great people like Dave Chesson, who runs Kindlepreneur, like entrepreneur but Kindle in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's a genius. Like he's a genius. He's cracked the code on this. His name is Dave Chesson. He actually created Publisher Rocket, which helps you find profitable keywords. So things that people are looking for, that they're typing in every single day, like every second or whatever on Amazon. He's nailed it. So he gets it in real time. And he has this great software called Publisher Rocket, and it's like $100 just for that. I think it's like a flat $100 fee. But you get all of this information about the keywords and the profitable ones. So like say somebody's looking for Goosebumps, right? Um, or a Goosebumps type book, you can literally go into Publisher Rocket, type in Goosebumps, and it's going to give you the metadata of how many searches there were up until this exact second for a Goosebumps type book. Now, it's really important to do this because people might not be looking for that type of book. So it's good to know if like the type of book that you are going to write is going to, if there's demand for it.
Right, because
Uh,
otherwise you're just relying on like passive interest and
yeah,
finding your
but
book.
yeah, so it's like it's more cold leads. But then you put the keywords, and there's a bidding war that goes on for the keywords. And so say you spend, it's pretty intricate, but it's like it's 77 cents per click for bidding war, or 78 cents or whatever.
So
Somebody
you
else,
pay that when they click on your book.
yeah.
Oh.
Um, and then you set a daily budget of $10 a day. Or whatever but you want your daily budget to be. Mine's around $15 a day. But so if there's a lot of demand and there's a lot of people looking for it, then you're going to be obviously shown throughout the day.
So then you won't necessarily spend the $15 every day.
Yeah, not necessarily, no.
Okay. It's only if they
But I would
click.
expect to, like, they definitely want to exhaust the budget. Like, so I would expect to. So they have like monthly, so you can see how much you'll spend in the month. It'll never go above the monthly budget. So 15 is like $450 a month, I think. I'm horrible at math. But I think it's $450 a month. So it's never going to go above. Your bill is never going to be 450, or your bill's never going to be more than 300 in a month. But it might be less. It could be less, but I would, typically expect it to be that. But yeah, but a lot of times there might not, like, it might not go up to that budget. So it's like a ceiling. So yeah, it's to me, I think it's the golden age of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing basically at Yelp. Like, nobody gets on Yelp in the first place if they're not looking to do something or buy something immediately. So like, your people are in hot, warm buying mode. So that's what's so great about it, is like traditional advertising used to be like, a television, or when you're on Facebook and you're scrolling, you scroll past it, where it's disruptive, like it's disruptive marketing. Um, like, these two companies have cracked the code on marketing that actually has higher conversion. Like 97% is the conversion rate, if everything is done right. So it's really cool. I had to learn about all of that. Dave Chesson does great coursework on that. Um, but yeah, it's been interesting and fun and cool, and it's been, I've had to learn how to run a business. So yeah.
That's excellent. So it has been, in the interest of time, I want to get more into this book stuff, but just in the interest of time, I just want to ask real quickly, like, so this is help sell your book, and you've been somewhat, successful as like an initial kind of, publisher on Amazon.
Yeah. So mine was, I stopped the ads for a little because I had to put up another paperback, so I didn't want the money to get wasted. But the the initial one, it was number one in its category. It made money. It's made me, if I'm gonna get into rough figures, it's probably about a couple $100 a month so far on the one book. If I take out the cost of printing it, that they charge for printing, and Amazon's cut, and the advertising fees, it's made me a couple $100.
How much do you
Um,
sell each book for?
I sell it. So the paperback is only 61 pages, so it's like $8.99.
Mm-hmm.
The Kindle is $5.99. And I'm gonna release an Audible. So I'm not so much sure. I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm gonna release an audiobook, but I'm not sure how much I'm gonna charge for that yet. But right now is available in paperback and Kindle form. $8.99 for the paperback, $5.99 for the Kindle. Um, so it's made me a couple $100 so far in sales, um, take home money after taxes and all that. Uh, and it's been up for about a month now.
I mean, that's incredible, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really hard, but it's really like, once you figure it out, there's a lot of, if you have something to tell people and they're looking for it, you have a business.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely true. Now, was it when I published my book, it did not
Hmm.
seem it wasn't it was actually a really fun process with Amazon. Is that kind of what your experience was? And then also, how did you know that like the book was ready? Like, did you send it? Did you pay to have someone edit it? And if someone is, if someone types up a book, because I don't think we need to get into the process of like typing up a book. I think people understand that like you go into some word processor or like online, document cloud
Do not use
device.
Google Docs.
Right.
Do not use. Yeah, don't use that.
So don't use Google Docs.
Word, Microsoft Word, or Scrivener, which is another great one.
Okay, cool, awesome. So they use those products to write a book, and then from there, do you send it to an editor?
Yes. So me personally, because yes, and a content editor, it's can also be a couple $100 as well, but um a book needs an editor. I have some editing experience, but definitely I send it to an editor to make sure it's reading well, to
Where
make
at?
sure that there's a lot of different ones that you can choose. Like I go to publishing houses, or you can go to a printing press. They have really good editors there. So but you can also use excuse me. You can also use Fiverr.
Oh, that makes
Um,
sense.
where you can just literally find, and it's about the same cost as if you were to go out and do it. But you definitely need to send it to a content editor, and then they'll charge by the hour, or by word, or however. And yeah, so it's and then you definitely my process. Like I uploaded it using a Word document, but for I'm writing a Sex and the City parody. And then I'm going to write a memoir collection. I'm trying to write something for women, so I decided to make a Sex and the City parody because I'm a dude that really likes the show. Like there's a podcast called Bradshaw Boys, and it's really popular.
For Carrie
uh
Bradshaw, right?
yeah,
Not that
so
I
I'm
know that. Not that I've seen the show or
oh no,
anything.
no, no, but like, yeah, it's gonna be from the perspective of Samantha. That was my favorite character on the show, and I think that's a lot of people's favorite character on
Yeah,
the
she was very
show.
popular.
Yeah, so it's gonna be from like it's her. So the parody is gonna be like as if Samantha Jones wrote a memoir. So it's like a parody of a fake character, um, telling her life story from before, but before the show aired. But yeah, that's my next book in the pipeline. And I also am working on an essay collection, which is like, I guess, a memoir, that I'm going to release later this year or early next year. Um, but yeah, that's sort of the process to uploading it on Amazon is mostly user friendly. I mean, but I've had a lot of issues, so I don't want to say it's mostly user friendly. But a lot of people think it's like free, and it is, but like if you wanted to sell and you want it to be done right and you want it to look professional, um like it's not free at all. So that's like it's it's free to upload your book, but if you want anybody to buy it, if you want customers to buy it and read it and like it, you want to take it seriously, like any other business.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, that's incredible, man. And I feel like we could talk about it for forever, because I think there's a lot of insight here. And a lot of people want to be writers. And I was actually thinking about writing something else. And I think that maybe after this podcast, we might talk a little offline about like maybe how we can
You should
just
write
do
about money.
right. Yeah. Well, it. How did you know? How did you know what I was what I was thinking there, Hugh?
I don't know, just
Is it because
saying.
I post about it all the time on social media?
Yeah, you have a good. What do you work at? Name of that company always escapes me.
Yeah, I work for a consulting firm. I do IT stuff. I used to do public health stuff, but then I retired from that, and now I do
That's right, public
cybersecurity and
health.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
money,
but you
money,
want to
fine.
like,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was just saying like whatever you do, it's really good to like write what you know. So
Oh,
like a lot of
sure.
people write about a hobby, but like if you're a baker and you're a baker all day, you want to write a book about baking. Like you know things about baking that other people don't know, and
Right,
you
or
can
just
help
like
people.
right, like Anthony Bourdain. I mean, he wrote about like the underbelly of the culinary world, and that's what got him famous with Kitchen
Yep.
Confidential. So yeah, and I really like the. I really want to make another book, and I think that maybe what I could do is, talk offline with you about seeing if we could do a little experiment with my current book to see if there's a way to get it traction. And if that is successful, maybe I write a book. But I was also wondering if maybe I should just whatever I was going to write a book about, like do a blog, and then that way I can
Yeah.
kind of like hone in on like stuff where I'm not like taking 6 months to write a book and then see if it does well. It's more of like a lean startup kind of idea. I don't know, but a question that I have for you, and thank you
Hmm.
for that insight on the book, is like you're also a very politically involved guy, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
I am.
you're very into politics. You used to work for Politico, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I worked for Karen Action right before Yelp. Helped Hale Ayala win the delegate seat for re-election seat in Virginia.
That's awesome, man. Did you ever think about writing anything political to put on Amazon?
Oh God. Oh God. I think my political thoughts get written onto Facebook, and then I guess I like to keep them there. But or actually, I like to. I don't know. No, I've never thought about it.
I feel like you would have something, at least maybe like say in the blog space, because here's the thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be completely ignorant on this, and let me know. But like having like a young voice, and you also identify as black, right? As a black
Yes.
male, having
Yes.
especially now the political insight of a young black male, I think is something that people might be like, say, looking for nowadays. I mean, do you think that that's something that you would be interested in writing, blogging about? Do you think that that would be something you'd be interested in writing a
It would.
book on sometime?
I would absolutely love to write a book, but for me, my political perspective and my world is so emotionally, like being a young black male, a 27-year-old male. It's so emotionally charged that for me personally, so I find it very difficult. I actually have a degree in political science. I don't know why I find this difficult.
No, I could see why
Now,
you find it. I could see why you find it especially difficult now, and that's something we could get into. That's something with the time we have left that I would love
yeah.
to get into with you, because the thing is social media is exploding right now.
Mhm.
After the death of George Floyd and everyone, and it's I think that we're coming to this point in this country now where we're just saying like, look, enough is
It's
enough.
a reckoning. Like
A
for
lot of
me,
people. Yeah, I mean, I sorry to cut you off there, but like, I feel like we're actually like, say, feeling some sort of pivot now. And you say that
yeah.
like you don't necessarily want to write about it because it's so emotionally charged for you personally. And is that because like you feel what people are talking about, and that you have like something that you'd like to speak on that? Like, because I would love to, what I think is very important, everyone wants to hold on to like their life view and apply it to everything,
Mhm.
not thinking that there is like some sort of other perspective. And one reason why I love traveling so much is because you go to like, say, Estonia, and you're like, wow, why are there tensions between them and the Russians? And then you understand the history of Russia
Mhm.
literally saying like, hey, we're going to use your land for, to quote unquote protect you from, the forces currently going on in Europe in the 1940s, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of tangential to what we're talking about. But I do not have the perspective of a black male. And I can look
Yeah.
at this and be like, yeah, I think I would be pretty upset too if I felt that, people were, that my community was being unjustly, perhaps, you know, killed without any sort of due process. And that, a police officer is taking it upon themselves to, think that it is okay to do something like that. And I'm not getting into like, if the police are bad or whatever, but I would love to hear from your point of view as someone who is very in tune with politics and who has been a black male their entire life. Like, what are some things that you think that somebody who is not a black male would need to say no, and to know about this kind of stuff? And what kind of thought do you think that they should do critically to kind of understand where the black community is coming from?
So for me, the reason it's so emotionally, obviously because it's because it's my lived in experience. I have been George Floyd. I'm still alive, but I have been in that situation many times,
With the cops?
out of the blue. Yes. And just like, and I don't drive much. So it's almost always, I've literally been like just completely harassed by walking,
You sh-
breathing,
so
living.
so
And so
you're like walking down the street, and then you're like accosted by someone in say, someone like a police officer or something. And like, how, what is that like? Like, what
I mean,
happens?
I think about like a couple months ago, just like 2 months ago, when I was on the metro and I was like pulled off the metro by a cop out of the blue. I was sitting there living my life. Um, and I just out of the complete blue, and it was very aggressively out of the blue. And I just had no idea what was going on. So for me, it's so emotional. It's because I've lived it. And
So
it's
he
more than
pulled you off
empathy
and,
for me.
just out of nowhere said, hey, you, like, I need to talk
Yeah,
to
I
you or
was.
something?
Yeah, he's like, you have a drink. You're not allowed to have a drink on the metro, and he just pulled me off. out of the blue. And then at some point I realized he was actually just profiling me. He was looking for my information and going through this. Um, and then because it then he was getting my ID and all this, and he was trying to figure out who I was, and I was like, well, what the hell's going on? I mean, it was completely like I was sitting there living my life, and the next moment I'm like literally the next moment the metro stops, and then a cop comes on, and just literally it was just this was like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, right before quarantine. So it's so for me. I exercise. I try to live with empathy. um I try to lead with empathy in my life. So it's so difficult for me to put that into words. It's something I'm doing now in a comedic article that I'm trying to write for McSweeney's. Um, is that but even just writing about it comedically to try to diffuse my emotions, but because I try to be logical, like I try to lead with empathy is my whole thing in life. So I really try to understand where people are coming from and why they're coming from that. And there's so much that goes into one single decision that one person makes, like just to get up out of bed in the morning. A lot goes into that decision, like whether we believe it or not, or like why we go to the school, or why we do this, or why we do that. So like I lead with empathy, but it's hard for me personally to how do I say this, or how do I phrase this, like it's hard for me to put that down into tangible thought, because which is why like I'm writing this article now, and it's a comedic article, but it's trying to contextualize that onto word. It's so difficult for me as a black male to put my entire life to be heard in that sphere. But now like I finally feel well enough myself but to do that. But like to yeah, it's just like I'm right now, like I'm so I like
Is it because it's like it's so much, and
it's
you want to kind of be able to say that all eloquently within like a a words? You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
like you're essentially trying to say like this thing that is like not tangible but very tangible, that affects every part of your life, that you have a you have a perspective on, that those who don't have that perspective could never really fully understand. Trying to put that into like one focused
Yeah,
shot
it's
is
trying to
difficult.
get somebody to understand something that they're never going to understand, but they have to understand.
Do
So
you think that the events happening right now are a way that, in the way that they are happening, are helping people kind of understand and step back and be like, hey, I want wow, yeah, maybe there's something here, or like, what are your thoughts on it? Like,
I view it as a
do you think, and I'm sorry, I asked you a question, then I immediately cut you off, but like that, but also like, do you think that this time is like, say, different, and it's like a turning point to where people are gonna suddenly start to, I guess, wake up and be able to see from the perspective of, say, a black male?
yeah, right now it feels like a reckoning to me, and it's like I've been my entire life I've been waiting for some sort of reckoning in that regard, but I just never thought I would ever see it, to be honest. Like I thought I remember when I was 10 years old, and or excuse me, 10 years old, I was 15 when Obama got elected, and I remember that night, just what I felt that night. He was actually in Manassas the day before.
Was he?
On no, yeah, it was his very last stop
I knew
on
that he
November.
was in Manassas. I didn't know it was like right before he had got elected. I'm trying to remember that. Yeah, that might be
Yeah,
true, actually.
I was in the crowd. So if you go to YouTube, Obama Manassas rally, November 3rd, 2008. That was his last. You can watch the video. That was the last stop. Right before the day before he got elected, and I remember I was there in the crowd, and he was like, it was one of the most beautiful moments because you saw all these people from different backgrounds, different worldviews, et cetera, races, colors, whatever, there. And I remember being there that night, and he was like 2 hours late, and so everybody was getting or he was really late, so everybody was getting really irritated.
And traffic
But
was, it was like impossible to get into that too, right?
yeah, yeah, it was actually, I don't know. I guess we went early, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't too bad for. It was like a huge line, yeah, definitely. But I just remember people being so irritated and waiting and forever, but they weren't irritated. Excuse me, that was the thing. Like they were irritated that he was like really late, but like they were so happy to be there in that moment. And I remember that day feeling, and then the next day when he got elected, I just never thought that would happen. Um, and so it was a very emotional moment, but I thought that might have been sort of some sort of reckoning, and it really wasn't at all. Um, so this feels much more like there's boots being put to the ground, and like people are going to not only live their, racially, like their perspective is obviously racialized. Like every perspective is racialized, whether we admit it or believe it or not. Like, but they're going to live that with more empathy, is
You
what I
think so?
think.
Do you
I
think that there's a possibility that, like, say, with social media being an echo chamber and you being able to find any kind of community that agrees with your viewpoints, that it's going to be what we see so much in life, where people are just going to double down on either extreme?
um
Or do
they're
you
going to
think it's
do
going
that.
to be like, more people, the majority of people will start to live their life with more empathy and being able to, you know, understand the viewpoints of others?
I think human beings get smarter over time.
Okay.
They take in more information. They just get smarter in IQ and EQ as well. So when there's any kind of, I just firmly believe this. So like going back to COVID, like a lot of people were saying, people 100 years ago, it's going to repeat itself, the same thing like the Spanish flu. We're going to have reverse second or whatever. But I think people are smarter. Just 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I'm 27, so I wasn't, I mean, I remember from like 2000, but like, in history, like people are able to take in more information. They're able to lead a slightly better life. Like they're able to, do things that are better than they were before. So I think that, but it's not easy. So it has to be done. But with it being done in some way now, I think people are going to, you know, they're going to take that in better than they did 20 years ago.
You
They're going to
think that
be,
the information being presented to them right now is going to stick a lot more?
yeah, I think people take in information a lot better. So it's going to how we behave, I think, improves over time. Even though that every day we see horrifying things.
Right. And of course
Uh,
there are people who, are opposed to, that kind
yeah,
of progressive, thought or whatever, but yeah.
I think as a collective, like,
Collectively you're long on humanity.
and I
Like the
and
collective,
I'm like a pessimist. Well, not a pessimist, but
but you're
I
optimistic when it comes to
yeah.
humanity as a whole.
I never thought I would be optimistic, but it was just like the other day. I was lying awake. I couldn't sleep, and I was just like, I feel optimistic. Or no, I was just lying. I was just doing something, or whatever, and I was just thinking, and I was like, I actually feel optimistic.
Well, that's good, and I think I can kind of maybe I feel somewhat the same way when it comes to COVID-19. Like I still believe that humanity's not necessarily doing the best job dealing with it in a lot of respects, but I do kind of like the idea that for a lot of things, people seem to be kind of rowing in the same direction. Like you see a lot of people who are actively doing the mask thing,
Yeah,
and whereas I thought that people would get tired of it real quick and just be like, no, why do I have to wear a mask, blah blah blah
yeah.
blah. But and businesses, and it seems that like there's a lot more, I guess, teamwork there than I thought that there could have been. It could be better, but like you said, I think that as a whole, there's a lot of good coming out of say preventing it based off of the circumstances. So
hmm Yeah, I think that I've had this discussion with somebody before, like in terms of COVID, like they were talking about a second wave, and we came to the conclusion, like, actually, this was before, I think even phase one, reopening. So this was like maybe about a month ago this time. And we were talking about how things are going to reopen. Like, I, people have got collectively, as horrible as, life can be sometimes, um, and the things we see every day, people get better incrementally. Like, it's so I think, like, yeah, like with the mask, like everybody has a mask on. I went into Walmart and I was like, I got into the car and I was like, oh damn, I was already driving and I was like, oh man, I forgot the mask. And I looked like a complete idiot. Like everybody had on a mask. So I was just like, and
That's
I
good.
wasn't like, yeah. So it was like, and like you said, we didn't think people would really adhere to that. And everybody had on a mask. So it was really like, oh, okay, we're very stubborn. We're very prideful as human beings. We're very, we're insecure. But we have a lot, like, I like to just, and everybody, I like to extract some piece of good and some piece of value, from them. And in doing that, it helps me and it helps other people. And I'm able to see, um, the good in everybody.
Right.
So
Absolutely. And that's that's I like what you just said. It made me feel good as well. It's I hope that, with the whole, racial stuff that's kind of going on right now. I thought it was really awesome how people kind of came together to show support for the black community and everything. And I just hope it's my hope, and I think that you kind of would agree with me here as well, that empowers them to vote for the people who can affect that kind
yeah,
of change.
yeah, I you'd think so too.
Yeah, I agree, and so hopefully people are voting this November and stuff as well. Well, Hugh, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Let me
With you
plug my
tonight.
book
I
real
was
quick.
just about to get that. Where can people find your book?
Okay, so if you guys like funny, if you guys like comedy, if you like Game of Thrones, if you like to feel good, my book is called A Game of Kooky Drones. It is a parody of Game of Thrones, the series. You can go to Amazon. It is available on Amazon. Type in A Game of Kooky. Kooky is spelled Kooky. Drones, like the things in the sky or the people that live in Duluth, Minnesota. You can get that book, and it is there. It is like $5.99 for the Kindle, $8.99 for the paperback. It's a great read. I've got there's a lot of good reviews up there for it. But we got some purchases, random people that purchased it and left a review. So there's a lot of good feedback and word of mouth for the book. I think you'll really like it. It's really funny. It's really interesting. I know I wrote it, and I know I have to say that, but I want you to. I think you'll enjoy it. So you can get that on Amazon. The audiobook version is coming soon as well. And I look forward to, hopefully, once you buy my parody books, or I have some more parody books coming out, I hope you'll get that as well. I hope you'll enjoy that as well. And I hope I can give you some kind of laughter and fun and happiness in your life.
Yeah,
What's my book?
especially nowadays. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Hugh. I really appreciate it, guys. Go buy the book. Hugh's a great guy and a great writer and everything, and it would really help him out. And I think you won't regret the purchase or anything. So thanks a lot once again for being on my podcast, Hugh. And I'll see you around, man.
See you around, Jason.
All right, bye.